Apparently, the vaccines are doing their job. That is what we're finding out now. I want to show you a bit of video from Dr. Rochelle Walensky, head of the CDC, who was on Rachel Maddow last night to talk about some of what we're learning about the vaccine now that it's out in the field.
We can kind of almost see the end. We're vaccinating so very fast. Our data from the CDC today suggests, that vaccinated people do not carry the virus, don't get sick, and that it's not just in the clinical trials, but it's also in real world data.
So that's what they should do. But I know that there was a lot of fear in anticipation of the vaccine, and even now that they're out there, that, are they really that effective? They say like 80, 90, 95%. That still leaves you open. Well, the head of the CDC is saying no, it's not just a clinical thing. Now that they're out there, the people who are getting vaccinated are, for the most part, almost entirely protected. And Viviana, that seems like pretty good news, especially as I think the daily cases yesterday were back up to 77,000. So yeah. we're in that race between vaccination and cases, and thankfully the vaccination at least is in a pretty strong position.
And that same director was on another show talking about the impending doom if we don't vaccinate. So I think it's, Dr. Fauci has been talking about this since the vaccine originated. And there's a lot we don't know because scientific research requires time. And the vaccine's only been out for 6 months. So they're gonna be like, yeah, it's effective for at least 6 months. They need more time to really know. And so there's been a lot of controversy with this because they're saying, okay, you gotta still wear masks if you're vaccinated. Oh, now you don't. And so people take that as meaning that nothing is true and you can't believe what you hear. But you really have to approach this in a scientific way and recognize that it takes time. And so there's going to be some public health experts that are gonna say, yeah, you're good to go, you're safe. And then there's gonna be others that are gonna be leaning on the side of caution, especially with so much misinformation going on about the vaccine and about the virus in the country. A lot of people are, and this has preceded COVID, and you know this, John, there's so many anti-vaxxers out there that this has just really built on top of that. And we really need to work on educating the public about the science of vaccines, and likely this vaccine is probably going to be good for a year. Maybe we'll get one once a year, boosters or something. Sure. It might be good for your whole life, like the polio vaccine was. So we don't know yet. And I think this is really great, encouraging news. And I think that this is what public health officials expected. And when they did the trials, they kind of foresaw that this was going to be the case, but of course they need time to really be sure. And I've already gotten the vaccine, John. I've been vaccinated fully since the end of January because before the pandemic even began, I was a volunteer at a hospital, so I qualified. And when you take the vaccine, they tell you that it has not been approved by the FDA. This has only been approved for emergency use. And so it is a trial. So any of us that have already gotten the vaccine, we are still sort of being studied and monitored to see how we react to it. So that doesn't mean it doesn't work. That doesn't mean don't listen to the CDC. It just means you need to take precaution when you're moving forward. I wear my mask when I'm out in public, even though I'm fully vaccinated. Now my parents are vaccinated. We can hang out without masks now. It's really great. But it's really difficult when people start seeing this different information that looks like it may conflict and they start discrediting all of it. That's the danger.
Yeah, and it's, the CDC sort of walked it back a bit and we're like, well, we're still evaluating the evidence, which is totally true. It's that scientist thing of, like, well, it's not 100%, which is totally true, but it's I respect nuance all the time. For some people, nuance is sort of dangerous because providing that little bit of nuance, I don't know, it causes a loss in confidence that is out of proportion to what the nuance is intended to convey. But anyway, I'm glad that they're talking about it and that they're continuing to watch. I would also add that new news as of this morning is that the CDC says that fully vaccinated Americans can resume domestic and overseas travel as long as they wear masks in public. The individuals do not need to get a COVID-19 test before or after traveling and do not need to self-quarantine afterward as long as they follow public health measures, which is a weird thing to say because I feel like all the stuff you just said are the public health measures. So I don't, what else is left after that? But anyway, saying yes, it is safe to travel and you don't need to, it's not like the first couple months of the pandemic, but you should still and probably will have to wear masks, especially because I want you to get vaccinated, but I don't know that you got vaccinated, and you saying you got vaccinated is not good enough in a country filled with anti-vaxxers and anti-maskers. So yeah, you got to still wear the mask when you're in public.
So how are they gonna
have fun?
How are you going to prove if you're going to get on a plane? So you do have to bring your vaccine card to show, but there's been so many fake vaccine cards out there. So I really, as long as everybody, I really think we should still be taking COVID tests before we get on flights. I really do. Maybe not quarantining, but right. But I think everybody should. If you're going to be traveling around, I mean, this is spring break. We already know all kinds of diseases get spread on spring break. So we know COVID's going to be one of them. We got to be careful because Brazil is having a really hard time. And once we start encouraging travel, well, we'll see what happens.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.